urge people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
I think we need to replay that for a second just to appreciate something in the backdrop. That's Howard Letnick, Chief of Commerce or something in the back. I'll get his exact title.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
Commerce Secretary. Let's just go to the part where you see him laugh in the back. Look in the back. Howard Letnick.
Stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it.
We'll pause it there. I'm going to keep this one open in the back. You watch this. I very conflicted because I have been among the most vocal Trump supporters for a very long time. Critic where it's warranted, and it's warranted here, but among the most vocal Trump supporters. Never in my life have I felt like I was being gaslit right up until now. Doesn't understand why the Epstein story is such a big deal, not just to his supporters, but quite apparently even to Democrats. Never understand. Like the internet is forever. For good and for bad. In this case, it shouldn't even be for bad. It should just be the internet's forever. Doesn't understand why it's such a big deal for his supporters. I'm not showing this montage. It's a montage. You've seen it all around. It was on Candace Owens' channel. It's not because it's on her channel that I'm going to avoid it. These are actual videos that we all have seen. It was just very easy to compile it without having to compile it by playing the compilation that Candace Owens had played on. Doesn't understand why it's such a big deal for Trump supporters and others.
How is that my father can be convicted of 34 crimes, but no one on Epstein's list has even been brought to light? I'm trying to figure out how that's possible, right?
That's Don Jr.
It's almost like they're trying to protect those pedophiles for some reason. I can't imagine why, right?
I'll put it on pause. I agree with Don Jr.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
For those of you who don't know, that's Director of the FBI, Kash Patel. For those of you who don't know who this is the current Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we
release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of...
This is Pam Bondi. We've seen this a dozen times.
Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. In this case,
this is Alina Habba. You know, I'll stop here and I'll play the longer Alina Habba video. We've all seen this. It's on the internet forever, good and for bad. This was posted by Phil Holloway earlier today. Hold on, let's just play this. I also agree with J.D. Vance. I agree with Pam Bondi. I agree with Alina Habba right now.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway. We don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Kash and Pam, there will be accountability.
We take it halfway. We don't take it home. That was Alina Habba. She is now the AG for New Jersey, I think, or the district attorney for New Jersey. Pam Bondi, Attorney General for United States of America. Kash Patel, Director of the FBI. JD Vance. And I've never felt like I've been gaslit until now. Trump standing up in front of a camera saying he doesn't understand why it's so important.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm in the Epstein story. I'm so upset about how it's been handled.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time.
Doesn't understand why anyone would be so interested. This is sort of like the hope springs eternal type thing. Like if you say it enough times, people will maybe be convinced. Maybe it's sort of like the good salesman type of thing where you're like, you hope to convince the person to purchase what you're selling. Nobody's buying it. What is particularly interesting, you look in the back and you've got Howard Letnick there. And when I saw this first video, I couldn't remember exactly who Howard Letnick was.
I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But
only bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. Something that his administration has been not pushing, because pushing has a negative connotation to it, raising awareness of, shining the light on. The highest level people, the VP. I actually had someone on the internet say, Viva, you're not being fair on JD Vance. If you actually hold people to the words that they actually use when they go out publicly speaking on behalf of the government, they're not going to go on podcasts anymore. We're not talking about a one-off joke here. We are talking about campaign policy from the highest ups that are now members of the administration. And I'm sitting there watching Trump and I'm saying, if I'm Dan Bongino, if I'm Kash Patel in the FBI, who have been not grifting off of this. People accuse everybody of grifting. It's the new you're a Nazi. If you don't like someone, they're a grifter. Making money off of your work is not called grifting. It's called work. And if you sell a product that nobody wants or that's a worthless product, they're not going to buy it for very long. And so the fact that Kash Patel wrote a book that was a bestseller, a book that people bought and read. If it were garbage, you sell a few copies and then the word that it's garbage gets around. Nobody buys it anymore. The fact that Dan Bongino had the most popular podcast is like sort of a demeaning word. News show. Like I think we've all you watch Vince in the morning, you'll be reminded as to how damn good Dan Bongino's show was. Not from a clickbait perspective, from an insight perspective, from a source perspective. Also, his delivery was impeccable. If you're peddling disinformation or stuff that is easily debunked or stuff that is just sensationalist, you don't last very long. Or you quickly get the reputation of being like National Enquirer or the other one there, the one that the bat boy escapes. That's not what Bongino was ever. So you have now Donald Trump saying basically anybody pursuing this story is a bad person and, fake news. The director of his FBI, a year and a half ago, not pushing a story, revealing the light. The deputy director, his AG, his VP, Alina Habba. And by the way, Letnick in the back. You want to talk about you feel like you're being gaslit and you feel like you're going crazy. When I first saw that, I'm like, oh, there's going to be a connection between Letnick and Epstein. Now leave it to fake news to find it. You put everything on blast. You bring the big shiny spotlight of the Streisand effect, everything, it's all going to come out. Do you remember how Alex Acosta, the man who struck the plea deal with Epstein back in 2009, when that came back to light in 2019, after Trump had brought him into the administration, disgraced, he had to leave. I don't know Letnick from a hole in the wall. All that I know is I'm watching that video and I'm watching Letnick in the back laugh while Donald Trump is somehow suggesting, yeah, you can make the argument he's only referring to fake news. He's making the argument that anybody who pursues this story, Bongino implored his audience to never let go of this story. There's something deeper there. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe he was genuinely and sincerely wrong, and he now knows that. I don't believe it. I won't believe it. And maybe stubbornly, I won't believe it. And not because I'm afraid of having been fooled. If there's evidence that comes out and says, yep, Lo and behold, Epstein was doing nothing for nobody except himself. I'm not stupid. I'm not stubborn. But Bongino comes out and says, don't let the story go. Now, you bring it up to the general public again, people are going to find things out. Howard Letnick was literally Jeffrey Epstein's neighbor. Now, there's no guilt by association. You don't necessarily know what your neighbors are doing. I don't know what my neighbors are doing, although I can see into their backyards. They see into ours. I'm pretty sure they know what we're doing. Howard Letnick literally was Jeffrey Epstein's next door neighbor. This is not me. This is like, I look at it, it's like, oh, I bet you there's going to be something there. It might be a nothing there, but there's something there. Howard Letnick's ties to Jeffrey Epstein come under scrutiny. This is from Newsweek. Howard Letnick's real estate ties to financier and child sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are once again drawing scrutiny, given the Commerce Secretary's apparent support for President Donald Trump's dismissal of what he describes as the Epstein case. A 2019 investigation by Cranes found that Epstein, in addition to his infamous townhouse at 9 East 71st Street in Manhattan, also known as the Herbert N. Strauss House, had significant links to the adjacent property, which real estate records show is still owned by Letnick. I'm not going to hold people to the sins of their neighbors if they didn't even know they were neighbors. What the hell are the chances that Howard Letnick, who's in the backdrop laughing it up as Trump dismisses the Epstein story and refers to anybody pursuing the story as a bad person, fake news, that he literally owns the property next to Epstein's now infamous property? What are the chances? I don't know. Why it matters. Oh, hold on, let's see. Newsweek has reached out to the Commerce Department for comment on the property on Letnick's relationship with his former neighbor. Why it matters. The dispute that has arisen in the Republican Party over Epstein and the, quote, client list. This is the first time ever that they put the quote in client list. He is alleged to have possessed, has become a significant thorn in the side of the Trump administration. Prominent MAGA figures, including Tucker, Jones, have voiced anger at the refusal to release full details regarding Epstein's past relationships, and the handling of the case has resulted in feuds within and between federal agencies, according to CNN BBC. The president himself has long-standing personal ties to Epstein, who died in 2019, from what the Department of Justice recently confirmed as a suicide. Oh, they confirmed it as a suicide based on the file that Trump has now taken the position can't be relied on because it was written by Obama, Biden, Bill Clinton, Comey, and the other FBI. So they rely on it to say that he committed suicide, but also tell you it's so unreliable we're not releasing any more of it because it was literally written by the deep state, who was the author of hoaxes such as Russiagate. However, the suicide finding has been disputed by his lawyer and is doubted by a significant number of Americans. Letnick's own links to Epstein stem from overlapping property interests and do not indicate any interactions or past relationship between the pair. However, the details have nonetheless garnered significant interest on social media, with prominent accounts sharing the information and their posts amassing millions of views. Many are pointing out to the findings as further reason to scrutinize the administration's reluctance to provide full transparency over the financer's past connections and the circumstances surrounding his death. What to know? Listen to this. Listen to this. It might just be a coincidence, but maybe if it's a coincidence, maybe Letnick says, Trump, it might not be the best thing from an optics perspective if I'm in the backdrop laughing it up while you write off the Epstein file, considering I bought his property and live next door to him. The property at 11 East 71st Street is situated east of 5th Avenue on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. In 2015, Letnick, then CEO of financial services firm Cantor Fitzgerald, hosted a fundraiser for Democratic primary candidate Hillary Clinton. Let me just understand this. Letnick hosted a fundraiser for Clinton at the 10,000 square foot home, and real estate records still list him as the property's owner. In addition to being his neighbor, real estate records show that Epstein was also listed as an owner of the property prior to Letnick purchasing it in 1998. As first revealed in Crane's 2019 investigation, a now dissolved entity with links to Epstein called Sam Conversion Corp bought the 11th property. It was later sold for an unknown consideration to a specialized trust, then to another, the Comet Trust. Well, that's a very interesting thing given the Comet Pizza link. In 1996, the latter, Cranes found, had financial and familial ties to an individual whose name appeared in Epstein's Black Book of Contacts obtained by the FBI during an investigation. In addition, property records seen by Newsweek show that Epstein was listed as the trustee of the building during these transactions and transfers while playing a direct role in them. Epstein granted his lawyer, Jeffrey Skantz, power of attorney over the property in 1996, selling it to the Comet Trust a few weeks later. In 98, Comet Trust sold the property to Letnick, who took out a $4 million mortgage for the purchase, which was paid off in 2018. Look at that picture. Yes. Nothing to see here, people. The reemergence of these facts has drawn significant social attention on social media. Many noting his response, speaking to reporters. Trump said, okay, then we got the article here. What happens next? We're going to get into it. As Republican infighting over the case continues, Trump has shifted responsibility to Attorney General Pam Bondi, who he said should release whatever she thinks credible regarding Epstein. That is one. I'm sort of flabbergasted by the Comet Trust link. That's kind of a flabbergasting coincidence, do we not think? So that's what's going on. You have Donald Trump, after years of him saying, oh, sorry, hold on, I actually forgot one. I forgot another one here. And someone says, you know, he says, move on. Who's interested in it? Was it, it's like the internet is forever. And this is not a question of holding this against someone. This is just a question of trying to make sense in my own mind. Am I going crazy? Or did they all not place great emphasis on Epstein, the client list, the fact that it was a cover-up of a pederast ring? Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. Like, maybe I never heard it. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. There's video of it.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be.
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger too, because, you know, endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it. But a lot of big.
I mean, it's like, okay, this wasn't 10 years ago. This was during this election cycle. That's Lex Friedman. That's the Lex Friedman podcast when Trump was on, talking about the client, the Epstein client list who went to the island. Now we're being told, by the way, like I've been following it literally for years. I've been following it since YouTube was demonetizing this content. And when we were being told, remember it said in that Newsweek article, you know, we were being told that Epstein killed himself. And I said I had a list of questions for Bongino when he did the interview. Yeah, let me bring this up here. It's good to be consistent. And you know, when you don't have a good memory, all that I have to know is, what would I have thought at the time? When Bongino was on Fox News for an interview, and I said this during the interview, I would have had a few follow-up questions. I appreciate Bongino's in an impossible position. He's a good man who has voluntarily walked into a shitstorm, typo intended, yada, yada, yada. The fundamental, this is from May. This was when we were being told he killed himself, no list, no blackmail material, move on. Then it was, we can't release it because it might incriminate, you know, unrelated parties, or it might re-victimize the victims. And then it's, the file's totally corrupt and we're not releasing it because it's unreliable. And when they were telling us that he had committed suicide, I'm like, based on what? Based on the file. The fundamental problem is that many people simply do not trust the file that was prepared by the prior administration's corrupt and weaponized FBI. People expect the current administration to investigate the investigators, not rely on their findings. When we were being told he killed himself, nothing to see here, move on, I'm like, based on what? Based on the file. This is the same file prepared by the same corrupt criminal FBI that you are now investigating criminally for the Russiagate hoax. Now it's gone to, the file was corrupt, unreliable, it's a hoax just like Russiagate, fine people and whatever. And so this is a moving goalpost that, you know, people aren't stupid. And in as much as people want success and need success, like the alternative is communism in America. The alternative is a Kamala Harris presidency, a Democrat government that will literally castrate and mutilate and sterilize young children because apparently adults think you listen to the gender dysphoria whims of a child. But like the gaslighting And then what I think, last week with respect to one of Trump's truth posts, I said, this is the biggest mistake I think he's ever made in his presidency. I think he made another. I read this. I was on with the Unusual Suspects this morning. Then I was on with Tim Pool over lunch. And I saw this as we were recording live. And I sort of think my stomach sank. I'm like, this can't be real. This is a post that Trump put on Truth. And you go read the responses. I mean, they're mixed responses. This is a post that Trump posted to Truth. And I'll read it. It's a little long, but it's worth reading in its entirety. The radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, that was Trump pissing on hookers in a Moscow hotel. The lying 51 intelligence agents, that was saying the laptop bears the earmarks of a Russian information campaign. The laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had come from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom. And even the Russia scam itself. By the way, all of these, Trump is right. Intelligence was lying. The story was true and or being lied about, or the story was totally false, like the Russiagate. Totally fake and made up story in order to hide crooked Hillary's big loss in 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are no good at governing. True. No good at policy. True. No good at picking winning candidates. True. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. True. That might not be a good thing. Some people say sticking together unquestionably is what a cult is and not what a party is. Set that aside. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Tell me what that means. So nothing happened. Like Jeffrey Epstein hoax is fake, like the Russiagate hoax, as in it never happened. All the documents were doctored. It was a manufactured, fabricated crime. Okay, well, I guess you let Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison then. Oh, it actually happened, but now it's being weaponized in a way that's inaccurate. Okay, how is that? Tell me. What the hell does that mean, the Jeffrey Epstein hoax? Like a lot of people say, will not get over the fact that at the heart of this, it's about the rape of children. Like a lot of people are never going to forget that. What is the hoax? The sexual exploitation of minors? The trafficking of minors for which Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted? Or it never happened and she shouldn't have been convicted? Imagine referring to the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy as a hoax without any further definition, as if we're meant to guess what is the hoax aspect element about Jeffrey Epstein's story. And my past supporters, listen to this. Their new scam is what we'll forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit. I don't know who he's quoting, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 years. I have had more success in 6 months, true, than perhaps any president in history. True, it's a shame to put it at risk for whatever is being covered up here. It's a damn shame. And all these people want to talk about with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward to do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented successes because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. I put out a post after that. Like, can you imagine that there are people out there who lost friends, lost family, got fired, went to jail for their support for Donald Trump, and there's a strong overlap of people who believe the Epstein story needs to be exposed and people need to be held to account. And now you've got Trump saying, I don't want your support anymore. Well, A, he's not going to be reelected. It's his last term. But B, can you imagine, like, when I read it, I'm like, remember that scene from Breaking Bad when Hank basically finally realizes that Walter is a bad guy? And then Hank looks at Walter and he says, I don't even think I know you anymore. And then Walter says, if that's true, then tread lightly. Let me see if I can find that. It was the best. Tread lightly, Breaking Bad. Yeah. It was the best line in the series. So look at this. There's two scenes I remember from it. Has everybody seen it? I won't ruin it. But like when I'm reading that post, it's not in the same context, but it's like a post from a different person. It's like it's such a out of character to not, it's one thing to bully your adversaries, but to shame your most dedicated supporters out of support. I don't need your support. I don't want your support. Well, I already had it. Thank you. I listened to you when you vote for me, but I don't really care to listen to you when I don't like what you have to say. Oh, and also I don't need your vote anymore because I'm never running again, but we do have midterms in a year. We do have another presidential election in three years and 3 months. This is the best line ever. Let me make sure I can get to see how fast. Let's see how fast this stream gets copy claimed on CommieTube.
I don't know who you are. I don't even know who I'm talking to. If that's true, if you don't know who I am, then maybe your best course would be to tread lightly.
Come on. That is not just television. That is not just Netflix. That is art. My goodness. Yeah, I got the goosebumps watching that. So imagine that. Tell your supporters, if you keep pushing this Epstein thing, that, Bongino, Patel, Haba, Bondi, JD, I have been pushing for years. You're bad. You're fake news. I don't like your support anymore, and I don't need your support anymore. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, try to, play. I want to envision a scenario where at the end he comes on and says, like, guys, I'm sorry I had to treat you like that. It needed to be done for the circumstances. I hope you understand and forgive me. And now we've got our massive victory. There's no way that happens anymore. And I know that for all the detractors out there who are sitting there saying, I told you guys, I told you he was a con man. You shouldn't have supported him. You should have had his hat in the back. You shouldn't have his shoes up there. You should have gotten his $2 bill. I can hear them. I mean, I want to envision a scenario where I understand the deception, but it's very, very difficult to find one. And at the end of the day, also, there are some people out there, even if he sat down for a fireside chat to explain everything. You see, the reason I needed to do this is because I needed to shed light on the deep state. And I needed the media to amplify this story. And there was no better way to have the story amplified than by me minimizing it, taking a position that pissed off my base, because then the media would amplify it even more. And I'm sorry I had to do it. I hope you understand. But alas, we've taken them all down. We've exposed it. There's very few scenarios where that is the outcome. And some people would say, Viva, that is one hell of a cope that you're trying to deal with right there. And I wouldn't even be able to fault them for that. That's where my thoughts at right now. The other part of where my thoughts are at, what in the hell could be so bloody damning in revealing whatever is being concealed in those Epstein files, that this is what needs to be done in order to conceal it? Have a president pull a full 180 within 6 months and tell you and browbeat you and ultimately shame you into giving up on the story. What could be so damning? I can think of a few things. I put it to Twitter and I think, it's like, what could be in those files that could be so damning that if revealed could take down the American government, take down the government of another country, come to World War III? Some people had some good ones here. So some answers are going to be predictable. I'll scroll up here. Let's see here. We're not the only compromised country. They all are. It would completely upset every major government of the world. Let's see here. Literally nothing could or would. Anything can be spun. The global elites. Come on. I saw some good answers here before. Some people said, one of my theories is if you found out that the government was literally facilitating the sexual exploitation of minors for the purposes of obtaining blackmail material for foreign policy, coercion, or extortion, that could take down a government. Even if it occurred 20 years ago, that would delegitimize an entire government. Other people said it's still going on. That would take down an administration. If you found out that there was foreign policy on a global scale that was dictated through whatever was going on in this file, that could lead to serious foreign conflict. It could seriously undermine certain foreign nations. Like what? In playing out doomsday scenarios in my head, everybody goes straight with the Israeli angle. Hypothetically, you find out that Israel has been using blackmail material to coerce political favors from America. All right. Everyone turns on Israel and they say, Israel, no longer an ally. You go fend for yourselves against your neighbors. War breaks out in the Middle East. America doesn't get involved. And then the Samson alternate, it leads to nuclear war in the Middle East, which leads to nuclear war and the devastation. All right. I can imagine scenarios where for the avoision of World War III, Trump has to take the slings and arrows of making this go away, whether people like it or not. I don't think it's going to get very far. but I could contemplate possibilities. I think that is the latest in what's going on today. I don't like it. I find it actually very upsetting. I very much support Trump, which does not mean being a yes man. I think part of the problem here is that Trump might very well be surrounded by too many yes men or women, yes people, yes gender neutral pronouns. He's surrounded by too many yes people who are giving him terrible advice, who are allowing him to think it will be gobbled up if he alienates a meaningful portion of his base. You know, I could see people whispering in his ear, Trump, don't worry, but never mind the chatter. It's social media. It's influencers. The people on the street don't care about this. And I've heard people entertain this idea. You know, you go to a pub and people are not going to care about the Epstein files. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not convinced that people on the street would not care about this. I'm not convinced that people on the street would not care about this. But this is more than the Epstein files. When I had Richard Barris on, who does some amazing polling, who actually sent me a poll indicating Trump has gone negative. This is a litmus test of government transparency. It's not just about Epstein. It's not just about one man. It's about a two-tier system of justice where the connected never get punished, somehow manage to get out of their problems, even if it's by taking their own lives. And there is no justice. And it was about promises made in terms of fighting the deep state. And now people who are so convinced that that's what Trump is doing are trying to find what I believe coping mechanisms to explain away that all of this that he's doing is indeed part of his fight of the deep state. He's got to downplay right off the Epstein files in his fight against the deep state. This is what big data poll from Richard Barris says. Poll, Trump approval turns slightly negative in July. This is from July 16. Democrats lead generic ballot for the first time in Trump's second presidency. President Donald J. Trump approval rating July 2025. As of July 14, 2025, Donald J. Trump approval rating stands at 48.3%, while 48% disapprove, up from just 37% in January, shortly after inauguration, and a reversal since May. Locator pins on the map below indicate by color voters presidential approval ratings. Pins located off map indicate their verified arrow overseas eligible. Strongly approve, strongly disapprove in red. And you can see it. President Donald Trump's approval rating is now slightly negative territory, a sharp decline from its all-time high shortly after inauguration. The survey was conducted by Big Data Poll as part of Public Polling Project, July 2025. I'm going to give everybody the link to this because I think you'll be able to find Richard Barris's, you can support his work. He does amazing work. Let me bring this out here. And so that's it. I'm going to go to the chat in a second. I just want to bring up one more video from Tom Fitton, who's asking for FOIA requests. What did he say here? Fitton, the FBI and DOJ can't be trusted. They're not capable of serious criminal probes, especially not into themselves or the CIA, which helped lead the conspiracy against Trump. And let's hear what he has to say here.
The handling of the Epstein matter by the FBI and the Justice Department further confirm that they can't be trusted to cross the street on their own. And I don't think the agencies institutionally are capable of the types of sophisticated, comprehensive, or dare I say it, competent criminal investigations, A, into themselves, or B, into agencies like the CIA, who were at the center of this grand conspiracy against Trump.
Now, it's a short touch. You can get a few extra seconds in there. That's Tom Fitton, who's been making FOIA requests and getting heavily redacted documents back from the Trump administration as relates to FOIA request documents relating to the Biden administration. So it's very despairing. It's very despairing. Like some people are saying, well, no one's ever going to defect from the Republicans and vote Democrat. You'd have to be a moron to do that. The bigger risk is that when people are browbeaten into silence, shut up if I don't want to hear what you have to say, well, they're not exactly going to run out and vote in the midterms. And that's going to be a big problem. And just as a mere, there's what we say in Quebec, there's a term called bon dol. Bon dol, good fraud is what they call it. You're selling a car. The car salesman says, this is the best car on the market. You're going to love it. It'll last you a lifetime. Nobody thinks he means literally it's the best car on the market. Nobody thinks he literally means it's going to last you a lifetime. It's what you call good fraud in that nobody takes it literally. And maybe Trump, thinks that by selling this, people are going to be reassured and move on. They're not. And not out of spite to Trump, although this is giving all the fodder in the world to his detractors. There are people who are genuinely appalled by this situation and are now going to be unjustly suspicious of the only person who I think doesn't have any personal responsibility in the situation. It's crazy. And the political blunder that this is providing against the Republicans and the fodder that is providing for the Democrats, where they now get to be the ones that come on and say, yeah, we want to order the release of the Epstein documents, and the Republicans are blocking it after what Habba said, Patel, Bongino, Bondi, JD, Trump himself. So Ro Khanna put out that amendment yesterday, which got shut down by the Republicans. Great optics there. Like, I talked about the theoretics. The talking point on the right was we can't pass this amendment, which would compel the preservation, production, and publication of the Epstein evidence on a DOJ website because it would be publication of CSAM and CP, cheese pizza. It's like, nobody wants that. Nobody's asking for that. Quit pretending that's what it is. If that's the concern, add a caveat to the amendment. Preservation and publication after a certain period of time of all the evidence related to the Epstein file, save and except for any publication that would contravene the laws as relates to child pornography or child sexual abuse material. End of story. Well, it seems that that's back up here now. This is from OAN, One American News. Let me see what the headline is. GOP Rep Thomas Massie attempts to force vote on releasing Epstein files. This is from today, 10:01 a.m. GOP Rep Tom Massie introduced a bipartisan resolution to force a vote on mandating the Department of Justice, DOJ, to release the files related to child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. I want to put it on a little caveat here. Some people are going to say this was Trump's plan all along, get his enemies to demand the release of the documents, and then, it won't be on him, and he'll have successfully gotten his enemies to do his bidding for him. It would be a great strategy, and had that been all that he had done, I would say, well done, President Trump. But when you need to, you didn't need to insult your base. You didn't need to demean, degrade, and gaslight your base in order to do that. There would have been other ways to do it. And maybe it was just a poorly executed plan to get his adversaries to demand publication of the Epstein files. So he could say, look, well, I don't think there's anything big in there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But if you guys want it, well, you pass the amendment. If that were the plan, good plan, poor execution. You didn't need to alienate your base in order to do that. And then some people are saying he didn't mean his base, he meant fake news, yada, yada. Okay, poor execution of a good plan or good execution of a poor plan. The bipartisan effort led by Rep. Massie and Democrat Ro Khanna is labeled the Epstein Files Transparency Act, EFTA, which would force the House to vote on the complete release of the government's files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Massie announced the introduction of the act in an ex-post writing. We all deserve to know what's in the Epstein files, who's implicated, and how deep this corruption goes. We all agree on that. Americans were promised justice and transparency. We agree on that. We're introducing a discharge petition to force a vote in the U.S. House of Representatives on releasing the complete files. Massie revealed that the discharge petition is a, quote, procedural tool for bypassing leadership. In 7 days, we can start collecting signatures. At 218 signatures, the House must vote on our bill requiring full release of the Epstein files. If your representatives won't sign the discharge petition, ask why. As of Wednesday morning, Massie's announcement post on X garnered 3.2 million views and 57,000 likes. I want to see something here. Thought they were going to maybe make an amendment to the resolution so that it would quell anybody's concerns that it would compel the production of criminal CSAM. Should the resolution pass, the Department of Justice would be required to make publicly available in a searchable and downloadable format unclassified records, documents, communications, investigative materials in possession of the department, including FBI investigation, U.S. attorney's offices. Fine. The measure notes that the documents are prohibited from being withheld, redacted, or delayed. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Regardless of if they cause embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. From his mouth to God's ears. Meanwhile, President Trump has labeled the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy of trafficking children to billionaires politically as a hoax. Imagine so many unforced errors. I don't understand why, but let's see what happens with that amendment. Now, that's really all we have on.